Interviewing is stressful in and of itself, but I would argue whether interviewing over video is more or less stressful than in-person interviews. For some people it could be more, and for some others it could be less. What video interviews certainly have is a number of features that are very specific to them. Now, the basic rules of interviewing apply here, and for these you can check out my video, which I will link right about here, my video on interviewing, but we still have to be mindful of a few additional things when interviewing over video. Here I won't be talking about how to position yourself in front of the camera or about the lighting and the sounding. In this video I want to touch on a few small details, but which can make a big difference when interviewing over video. Number one, avoid any kind of distraction. I am talking here about anything that could be a source of distraction for either you or the interviewer. This shows that you take the interview and the interviewer seriously. To start with, make sure that you are in an environment with at least not so much noise. Be sure to avoid having your cat coming over to say hi, or, well, that is okay for recurring meetings with your team, for example, or even some interviewer could also be okay with that, but just in case, try to avoid it. Make sure you are sitting, or for that matter standing, but in a comfortable position. Go for a static background. It's okay to have, for example, a garden behind you or a poster. Hello. But if you want to have a clean background, then you can just sit in front of a clean white wall, or you could also use any of the backgrounds that come with Skype, Zoom, and other platforms. One important source of distraction is the phone. Make sure that before the interview you either switch it off or turn on the silent mode. Let's also not forget about the applications on the computer that you're using for the interview. Shut all applications down. Having them open, getting notifications during the interview can be a source of distraction for you, but also it can somehow disrupt the entire interview, for example, slowing down the internet connection. Second, use notes. If you're that kind of person that tends to get stressed or anxious or nervous during the interview, make sure to write down the answers to obvious questions, or for example information about the company or the position, and so on and so forth. Write down on notes so that you can have in front of you in case you need to take a look. A couple of things though. First of all, do not completely rely on the notes. Remember, the notes are there in case you need them, just for your support. Second, do not make it obvious in case you need to refer to them. For this, you can use post-it notes, write them down on there, and then stick them to the side of the computer. Third, proper attire. When it comes to dressing for a video interview, there is still some level of freedom. If you feel more comfortable wearing sweatpants, just go ahead and wear them. But there are also some drawbacks. For instance, patterned clothes might appear a bit confusing. Bright colors could be tiring for the eyes, and white can make you look washed out. What looks best on video is dark, solid colors, so do opt for those when interviewing via video. Fourth, slow down your emotional expressions. The fact that you're doing the interview online does not mean that now you should be all serious. In in-person interviews, you should practice smiling, using hand gestures, facial expressions as much as you can. The same is valid for interviewing via video. One thing I would suggest doing slightly differently from in-person interviews is slowing down your speech, your emotional reactions, your facial expressions, your hand gestures. And what I mean by this is not creepy smiles that last for 5 minutes non-stop, but rather if in an in-person interview you would show your enthusiasm about something by talking slightly fast and moving your hands in accordance. Now you should just slow it down a bit, because moving at the same pace and talking as fast could be or sound a little overwhelming over video. Fifth and last tip, talk to the camera. I've talked about this before, but when it comes to interviewing, it becomes even more important. Again, you can allow yourself to look at the screen now and again. You can also look away altogether, especially when the interviewer is speaking. When you are speaking, try to look at the camera, directly at the camera, as much as you can. For those of you who are not that comfortable making direct eye contact, this should come easy. While for those of you who are more comfortable making direct eye contact, it could be tricky in the beginning. In order to get more comfortable with this, you can have a family member. You could ask a family member to just come and stand behind the camera, and you can make direct eye contact with them while speaking. In case you don't have anybody around, go for a picture. Take a picture of a family member or anybody for that matter, put it right behind the camera and pretend you're talking to them. Now, interviewing via video has been practiced for a while now because of its convenience, but even more so in the last year because of COVID. In the future, it might become the predominant way for interviewing. So, practice these 5 tips and let me know what you think. See you guys next week.